Ke aloha kakahiaka kako, and welcome to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, the emergency meeting of the OHA Board of Trustees. Today is Monday, August 17th, 2026. The current time right now is 10:05 in the morning. Please let the record reflect that. Trustees and beneficiaries and members of our community,
Roll call vote.
stand by, Chair Emerita. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs is convening in an emergency meeting of the Board of Trustees pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statutes 92.8a. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees finds that an imminent peril to the public health, safety, and welfare exists that requires a meeting of the board in less time than provided under Hawaii Revised Statutes 92-7. Specifically, over the weekend and over the last 72 hours, Tropical Storm Lala, which intensified in strength to become a Category 1 Hurricane Lala, caused devastating and widespread damage across the state, but specifically on Hawaii Island, with severe impacts in the Kaʻū region, including the communities of Pāhala, Nāʻālehu, and Waiʻōhinu. Torrential rainfall and extreme flooding have damaged and destroyed homes, bridges, roads, utilities, and other critical infrastructure. They have isolated communities. The communities of Pāhala, Waiʻōhinu, and Nāʻālehu are isolated to a degree at this time from normal vehicular traffic. It has disrupted electrical service and transportation, displaced residents, and created continuing threats to public health and safety. Current reports indicate that homes in Nāʻālehu were swept away by floodwaters. A resident was rescued after being swept away in Waiʻōhinu, and at least 6 bridges were either destroyed or inaccessible or unable to be crossed by normal vehicular traffic in Kaʻū on Highway 11. And severe flooding and infrastructure damage has left Pāhala isolated and significantly impaired access into and throughout portions of the district. Widespread electrical outages have also affected Hawaii Island, while damaged roads, downed trees, debris, flooding, and other hazardous conditions continue to impede access and recovery efforts. The board further finds that the full extent of the damage continues to be assessed and that conditions on the ground remain fluid. And as we speak, Governor Green, Mayor Alameda, members of their cabinet, state and county civil defense, and FEMA are conducting response and assessment of the damage and to be determined recovery operations at this time. And this will be ongoing for the foreseeable future as residents in the affected areas continue to face hazards associated with damaged infrastructure, debris, contamination, electrical systems, interrupted utilities, and limited transportation access. The board further finds that the District of Kaʻū is home to a significant Native Hawaiian population and that the impacts of Hurricane Lala therefore directly and substantially affect OHA's beneficiaries. Latest census data identifies that there is an estimated 3,041 Native Hawaiians that live in the Kaʻū and Kalai South Point areas, constituting approximately 34% of the total population of the Kaʻū area. The board further finds that our Native Hawaiian individuals, families, and communities in Kaʻū and elsewhere on Hawaii Island have experienced immediate and ongoing impacts from Hurricane Lala. The board also finds that timely coordination and potential deployment of OHA's existing emergency relief resources, including the Iola Lahui Emergency Assistance Program and the fiscal year 2026 Emergency Relief Fund, may be necessary to address urgent beneficiary and community needs resulting from Hurricane Lala, and to complement the whole of government effort partnering with county, state, federal, and community-based response and recovery efforts. So given the magnitude of the damage that the Kaʻū district has experienced, the current isolation and disruption experienced by communities in Kaʻū, and the significant concentration of OHA's beneficiaries within the affected district, the chair has convened this emergency meeting of the Board of Trustees and is asking the board to waive the regular 6-day notice period because of the undue delay. OHA's ability to respond during a period of urgent need could increase the risk of further harm to affected beneficiaries. What the chair would like to do is take the board into an emergency meeting that requires a 2/3 majority of the Board of Trustees to do that. If the 2/3 of the majority of the board agrees, we will go into an emergency meeting. We will take up new business, which would be agenda item number 2. The chair will recognize the administration who has worked over the weekend, in particularly yesterday, to put together the best information they can to report back to the Board of Trustees so the board can make the best decision today to be able to prepare for the current assessment and the needs and how OHA can react to supporting our Native Hawaiian beneficiaries in the Kaʻū district. And so that is the justification for convening the board today and for the chair's desire to take the board into an emergency meeting. Kapono, board counsel, is there anything else to read into the record before we do a roll call vote? Okay. Then at this time, let's do a roll call vote. Lehua.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka. I believe this is for the 2/3.
This is roll call vote to establish a quorum and to establish a 2/3 majority to convene
combine.
an emergency session.
Okay, mahalo. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Wahi is not online. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes. You have quorum and you've got more than 2/3.
Okay. Oh, it's not. Thank you. Okay, so we are recognizing our interim chief administrator, Summer Silva. Hey, Summer. And feel free to invite anyone else you would like to invite to the table. Okay, that's a good point. So yeah, you can invite whoever you want to come up. But before we move to the administration's update, do you have any public testimony on the current agenda item we're on, which is item number 2, which is new business, and that is to discuss the impacts of Hurricane Lala on Hawaii Island and consideration of OHA's emergency response options, including the potential authorization and deployment of emergency financial assistance through existing programs and funds and any related board action. Any public testimony?
Yes, our first speaker is Lou Ann.
Okay. Aloha.
From
Aloha.
Molokai. I want to thank you for this quick action for Hawaii Island. And before you guys go into exec session, I know this is very specific. I ask that you consider this more statewide. Some of us have sustained damages here and still not whole. We are still standing by for other things with OHA program. So please consider expanding, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Luann. Anyone else signed up to testify?
Yes, our next speaker is Marilyn Lemomi Khan.
There she is. Aloha, Mommy.
Aloha, Chair.
Aloha.
I'm glad to see that all of the trustees are well and present at this morning's meeting. I wish to echo the former speaker's request. Thank you for this special meeting to address the needs of the Kaʻū community, but we know that due to the strength of this recent hurricane, that other Native Hawaiians were probably affected. And so I sent a letter this morning, which I think you all have, that explains my request that OHA establish some kind of system to recognize the needs also of other Native Hawaiians. Mahalo nui loa again for the opportunity to testify and for your good work. Aloha.
Mahalo, thank you. Anyone else, Lehua? Okay. Okay. We'll recognize the administration.
Wonderful. Thank you. And yes, deep mahalo for coming together to allow for this emergency meeting, and to my administrative staff who have actually been working since Thursday evening in anticipation of what, were going to be very challenging circumstances. Planning had already started to begin, and I want to thank them for working over the weekend and addressing their own immediate family needs alongside our really vital and important mission here at OHA. I also sort of want to ground us, because I've had to ground myself too, in sort of the privilege of being in a position where we have sufficient, what feels like sufficient bounty, and a mission oriented towards meeting communities in dire need at this particular moment. It's both a privilege and a responsibility, and it's a reminder that the trust resources that we steward for the benefit of our beneficiaries, no more so than in moments like these. We have an OHA staffer from our compliance division who is among the families who are landlocked and currently in inaccessible conditions, isolated from everywhere else on Hawaii Island that they normally have access to. And I am also informed that many of those families are now living among the disinterred iwi, kupuna, of their ancestors. I am not familiar with conditions that would put our beneficiaries in that kind of challenging moment. And I flag that here not to sensationalize what's happening, but to underscore how unique, how dire, how urgent, and how appropriately responsive this office, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, is poised to address those very unique needs in the Kaʻū region. I have also wanted to remind, because I'm reminded every time I'm out in community, this question, which is reiterated more times than I'd like, which is, what has OHA done for me lately? What has OHA done for my community, my families? And I think we have a really unique and important, significant moment to answer that resoundingly with, we came to the aid of our beneficiaries in communities that were isolated, that were without power, without resources, and are also at the same moment addressing some of our iwi kupuna needs as well. It's nothing more traditional, more cultural, more responsive than that. The balance of my presentation today will focus on what our administration came up with in terms of proposed action plans that are both responsive and urgent and prioritizing to this moment, while also putting in the right and appropriate amount of flexibility and stewardship that is necessary to both partner with community to adapt our engagements with the evolving data that is coming to bear, and to coordinate our efforts with other on-the-ground efforts, including partnerships that have already been established with the state Department of Human Services, the county, the mayor's office here, both in Honolulu and in Hawaii Island, and other partners on the ground, resource hubs that are in Kaʻū or that service the Kaʻū region. The first proposed action seeks to redeploy the existing Iola emergency aid resources, meaning all of the balance that has yet to be encumbered and that is in our OHA's possession at this time, which amounts to $140,000. As you may recall, this amount is the balance of the originally approved amount of $6.1 million by the Board of Trustees back in November 6, 2025 to meet the crisis, the emergency disaster that had then been established with respect to the government shutdowns and the SNAP benefit decreases and or eliminations of programs. $184,000 cash available remains and is available to pivot to this Lala disaster fund effort. In addition, also from the Iola emergency program, the use of approximately $151,000 in remaining unused gift cards is also available. A combination of gift cards from KTA, Foodland, and Times to provide additional immediate and flexible essential needs support to Native Hawaiian households, and where appropriate, to Native Hawaiians serving community resource hubs and nonprofit organizations who can use those gift cards to replenish their supplies, which then in turn replenish the needs of our Native Hawaiian households in the impacted Kaʻū region. Altogether, the aggregate amount of those funds are approximately $335,000, and the administration is recommending that we authorize for redeployment and expenditure for the disaster relief purposes set forth with respect to the Lala weather event. So that is the first option available to us. We also have a second reserve of funding, the Direct Disaster Aid Grants Program, which has a remaining balance from the Inaʻi Kokua gift card program, a program that was stood up responsive to the Konalo events, and that, if you recall, allowed for the disbursement of gift cards in the amount of $2,000 through the Home Depot partnership that OHA established. $30,000 remains in that program that can be redeployed and pivoted to the Lala weather event, and $407 was appropriated in your FY27 OHA Grants and Aid Disaster Aid budget for disaster relief purposes. This Lala weather event qualifies for the use of those funds. The aggregate total of that amount, just direct disaster aid grants, as you recall, these aid grants are contemplated to be administered by OHA internally and in coordination with all of the payas who lend their expertise, their subject matter skills and experience, and their trusted community relationships to identify who recipients of those those funds and that aid will be. The aggregate amount is $490,407. The total aggregate between options 1 and option 2 amounts to $826,717. I offer those two in separate options and tranches, though you are free to direct this administration to, join both programs, if you will, or portions of those programs for the purposes of being as responsive as possible to the Lala weather events. Lastly, the administration asks for some operational flexibility and continuing authority to respond to evolving conditions. We are just, 24 to 48 hours out from the center of the event, if you will. And the fact that we are poised to make monies and funding and services readily available to our communities in need is something that I think we should be really proud of. At the same time, we are mindful that data and damage assessments are coming in as we speak and are evolving, and that our ability to be as responsive as possible without having to protract the ability to move those funds and those services into community requires some confidence and some trust on this board's kuleana towards the administration to have some flexibility and some continuing authority to be able to meet those evolving needs. And so we ask for an action item that builds in that kind of discretion with the appropriate guardrails. Normally, the delegation of authority is afforded to the chief administrator. I am asking that that decision-making authority be in partnership with who I think on staff are appropriate like checks and balances, which include the general counsel, which include our chief financial officer, which will include our director of community engagement, and which I also am asking include our strategy and implementation economics sustainability director, Pony, because of her experience also helping to navigate these kinds of disaster funds. So together, my authority will be informed by those staff members and their subject matter expertise. That is our proposed platform program, if you will, or framework for the moment. Pony did us a huge favor by providing a PowerPoint that essentially, if we can share that on the screen, that illustrates the phased approach to the disaster relief deployment that I just spoke to. We did this, or she did this early this morning, so I'm going to read through it alongside all of you to illustrate sort of what is being contemplated here, right? Like, again, we are in a fortuitous position that we can be as responsive as we are being as an agency dedicated to meeting the needs of Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. And that phase 1 immediate relief and stabilization is what we envision the first tranche of redeployed EOLA funds be dedicated towards. So maximum flexibility in that first tranche, which is both a combination of cash resources and unused gift cards to meet the moment. And as needs become clearer over time, phase 2 is this targeted recovery and gap filling, which is what we've learned our direct disaster aid grants program is best positioned to fulfill. That particular phase of our funding disbursement will be informed by that evolving data landscape, will be informed by frameworks and templates that have worked for us in the past, and then integrating learnings and do-betters that we've also learned along the way to stand up disaster relief programs responsive to the needs of the community. And then phase 3 is a continuation, a sustainability of that effort. And that's where the delegation of authority, the flexibility, the operational flexibility, and the continuing authority to remain responsive to those conditions rest. I will say, it goes without saying that we have developed a SIT-REP, a situational report framework and cadence that is weekly, and provides for the kinds of details that an auditor, that a trustee, that anyone in the community would want to have on hand to demonstrate exactly how those monies are being used, where the funds are being deployed, both geographically, island-wide, to the extent we have data related to demographics. We will maintain that SIT-REP cadence for all of the funds that are authorized for our use and disbursement today, and remain willing to present at any agendized meeting on maybe more robust or more substantive or more contextual explanations related to those SIT-REP details. But yes, I want to thank Pony for developing this illustration, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond to them.
Okay, thanks, Summer, for that update. Trustees, we are, barely into the phase 1 immediate response phase of this natural disaster. Clearly, it's a rapidly unfolding situation, especially in the Kaʻū region. We know other areas of the state were hit as well, but Kaʻū was hit especially hard. We know we have resources that are available should we want to use them, and at least pre-position them to respond to the urgent needs of our beneficiaries, especially in the Kaʻū region. From the conversations I had, and yesterday I had numerous conversations with the governor and the Attorney General's office and Mayor Alameda's team. The Department of Water Supply's water system is down in the entire Kaʻū region, so there is no running water. Helco is down in multiple parts of the state, right? There's, I think, just under 200,000 residents or households that do not have power, but the entire Kaʻū region has no power. In addition to the inaccessibility of the region right now because of either completely washed out up to 6 roads that have made Highway 11 almost impassable, I think the most urgent need is the ability for the residents of Kaʻū and our beneficiaries to have drinkable clean water, power through generators which require fuel, non-perishable food. Those are the things that are going to be really critical for our beneficiaries over the next few days as this unfolds. There's also another major issue in Kaʻū, and maybe at some point, Summer, you touched on it in your remarks. We can speak to that, and that is the unearthing of multiple grave sites and iwi kupuna in the Nāʻālehu cemetery. And for those of you who need a geographical orienting, as you drive through Nāʻālehu, you have the Punalu'u Bake Shop that a lot of people stop at because of the malasadas and all the bakery items they have. Across the street from that is Nāʻālehu Ace Hardware. And the road that you would take to go Mauka is Kalahiki Road. And about a quarter mile up on the left-hand side is the County of Hawaii Parks and Recreation run Nāʻālehu Cemetery. And, for many of us who have seen the videos on Facebook or Instagram, know that a biblical amount of water came out of the upper watershed above Nāʻālehu town and created raging rivers that had never been seen before. Those waters inundated the Nāʻālehu cemetery, and as a result, there are reports of multiple iwi and kupuna that have been removed from their grave sites, headstones that are scattered throughout the Nāʻālehu community. And just in the last few hours, there's been a number of emails from Haima putting together SHPTI and trying to figure out how to address this. OHA is obviously through statute, a part of and should be a part of this, major issue that concern our iwi kupuna. And so that's something else that we can talk about. So those are my initial thoughts that I have just listening to the administration. Happy for anyone else on our board to jump in and join in the conversation about how we can potentially pre-posture existing assets into the Hawaii Island and Kaʻū area, delegate authorities to the administration so that they can be able to respond quickly as Governor Green and Mayor Alameda and the community leaders on the ground in this region identify the most urgent needs. As it stands right now, the Konalo and Iola assets that this board approved without board authorization cannot be redirected to Hurricane Lala. So just very simply, the KTA gift cards cannot be used for Hurricane Lala right now. Like if this board did anything, we would approve that so that we can use the KTA gift cards to buy non-perishable food to get them into the Kaʻū region. And so those are just some things to think about, right? We don't have Times Supermarket on Hawaii Island. But through Foodland, we can partner with Sack and Save, which we do have when we're talking getting food into community. But I think those are some of the urgent needs that this region is going to need. And just, to frame the board in our, data, and I thank Carla and R&E for providing this, is 3,041 Native Hawaiians live in the Kaʻū and Kalai areas. That constitutes 34% of the total population of this region. 215 Native Hawaiians have identified as age 65 and older that live in Kaʻū and Kalai. There's 831 Native Hawaiian households, which represent 25% of all households in the Kaʻū area. And of those 831 households, 603 are owner-occupied, which are 73% of all households in the Kaʻū area that are Native Hawaiian. So a significant and substantial amount of OHA's beneficiaries are being affected at this time. And so that's kind of how I see why this board has convened and why we are leaning forward while the subject matter experts are on the ground right now doing their assessment, so that if this board takes action and comes together on some type of initial relief package, that when that assessment is made and determined as early as today, our BSAs and our Hawaii Island team can start moving quickly. I'd also add that last year, our Hawaii Island team established satellite office locations throughout Hawaii Island. And so they have spent a significant amount of time in the Pāhala and Nāʻālehu area having satellite office locations, remote locations over the last year. And so they've had a chance to develop relationships in the Nāʻālehu, Waiʻōhinu, and Kaʻū communities that they can reach out to. But I will say, as someone who has tried to reach out to some of those very people yesterday, they're not answering the phone. I reached out to Dane and Terry Shibuya and was unable to get them on the phone. And part of the reason is the lack of cell service and cell towers that are not working in the Kaʻū region. You know, we have internet issues here. We can't get Trustee Wahe'e online because he has internet issues, and that's here on Oahu. So you can imagine what Kaʻū is like. So it's not that easy to reach people. But we have had a report from one of our internal OHA staff members as part of the advocacy team that lives in Pāhala that was able to give us some information yesterday and also let us know that he was safe and his family was safe. But those are some of the issues that we're having right now. So I'm going to stop there and open it up for any trustee to contribute to the conversation.
Chair,
Hey, Chair Merida.
mahalo. I'd like to acknowledge the two beneficiaries that gave testimony in that maybe we should consider a tier of damages and have an assessor go out to any beneficiary in the state of Hawaii that has suffered severe damage and unlivable conditions and give them an opportunity of also getting help from us. I agree that we're centraling in on Nāʻālehu because I watched it very carefully over the weekend, but there has been some devastating problems on Maui as well. But I see a tier in that maybe that's what we need to do. Some damages are not serious enough so that the people are displaced from their homes. But there are some whose homes have floated away and they certainly need help. So if we can consider that, I think that would be helpful with the resources that we have. And I also believe very strongly that the money should be distributed by our staff and that it not go out of OHA. I feel very strongly about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Merida. Trustee Souza, Vice Chair Souza, and then Trustee Ahuna.
Mahalo, Chair. First of all, I just want to thank you, Chair Kahele, as well as Summer and the administrative staff, and able to to be able to put together those numbers over the weekend and be proactive about it. And I support the recommendation, both recommendations, both parts of it. I think it totals 826,000 or so, some odd, a little less than 850,000 from what I heard. Nothing more impactful and more rewarding to be able to show up during the time of need for people. And it's an emotional time. This is a little different this time around. The iwi kupuna family members that are affected by that, we send our regards to them and aloha to them as well. Whatever we can do, and same thing I say every time we show up in an emergency situation is that this is the first tranche, it's the first attempt. We'll continue to assess the needs and move from there. And I also agree with Chair Merida Lindsay, as well as the two testifiers earlier, that yes, we should look across the paʻaina and address those issues as well across the state. So mahalo nui.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Trustee Ahuna.
Thanks, Chair, and yeah, thanks to the administrative staff who put this all together. It's amazing. I just wanted to be clear on some things. What is the action item before us right now? What are we actually voting on? Or we still kind of discovering, or because I would like to see something first if it's possible.
Yeah, so Trustee Ahuna, the administration they're basically giving us a buffet of options. This board has, risen to the occasion multiple times already, starting with last October when we had the federal government shutdown and the, SNAP benefit issue for our beneficiaries. So we've started to reallocate essentially emergency funding for beneficiaries, which occurred again during the March Kona Low event. And there are now remaining and currently already appropriated funds that we have turned into, in some cases, gift cards, in other cases, just straight money that's still available. We also, this board last year in its biennium budget approved a little under $900,000 for disaster relief funding. FY26 had almost $500,000. FY27 had almost $500,000. And so there is that's also available. And so at this point, what the administration is doing with the limited knowledge they have is giving this board the current balances of what exists and potential options for an action should the board want to allocate resources to the Hawaii Island and Kaʻū community. And if so, at a potentially future or near future board meeting, additional statewide resources to Chair Emeritus' point about Native Hawaiian beneficiaries that have been affected outside of the Kaʻū region. So there's no specific action on the table right now. The goal was to have the administration give an update and have the trustees come to some type of consensus on what would be the most appropriate response as we wait for the on-the-ground assessments coming out of Kaʻū.
My follow-up question is, now that we're here today, I just wanted to make sure that we release money so that we can do something so I just wanted to make sure of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Galataire?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you. Thank the administration for taking on the heavy lift. Everything is fresh right now. So I believe that coordination is key too, so that as we move forward, we know who's doing what. Left hand knows what right hand is doing, so we don't duplicate an effort. If there's partnerships out there that we can recognize and move forward on, they probably know what to do better than we do. So let's not reinvent the wheel where we don't have to. Secondly, from a practical perspective, who's going to fix the bridges? County, state? When you talked to governor yesterday?
So the civil defense has already put out a message this morning, Hawaii County, that they are doing emergency road repair in areas that they can attempt to fix, right? Accessibility is going to be vital. And there's several, at least two bridges, if you're coming on Highway 11 from Volcano, going to Kaʻū, before you get to Pāhala, there's at least 2 or 3 bridges that are potentially, uncrossable by a vehicle. If the waters have subsided, you could cross on foot, but getting heavy equipment across those bridges are right now, I think, the top goal of State Department of Transportation and Mayor Alameda's team to get that repaired so that you can get vehicles across. I know that people have been volunteering helicopter drops. One of the things that we have available to us is a helicopter contract through our land PAIA because of the Wa'okele Opuna efforts we do. So we also have the ability to contract and utilize helicopter services to get equipment, most urgent items into the Pāhala area with an appropriate landing site, obviously. So I think everyone is focused on the accessibility piece.
So just for clarity, we're looking at food, water, power. So if we had 3 categories to concentrate on, would we be looking at getting these elements on the ground over there?
Yep. And I would say that with power goes fuel, right?
Yeah.
And as someone who was boots on the ground during 2014 during Hurricane Lala, and went personally out to go deliver generators into Lower Puna, I know that that goes a long way. And getting generators into the district, fuel into the district, and water is going to be is going to be really important. You know, there's also the likelihood that residents in the community might be displaced or relocated from their homes into temporary housing, and that could be hotels, right? There's an opportunity for OHA to step up to relieve families of that that financial burden as well. I think there's multiple ways for us to help, but yes, those would be the kind of you know, most important things that would be the most impactful.
One final question about the EV. Did any of the leadership tell you how that's being handled? Are the burial councils involved here? How, because there's a cultural protocol when dealing with EV.
Yep. So the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency and their Operations Human Services branch received a request for assistance. I believe this would have been from the County of Hawaii, assistance number 7054, regarding technical assistance for the proper care and handling and reinterment of human remains displaced by the flood event in Nāʻālehu. So HAIMA is, I don't want to say taking the lead, because I do believe the County of Hawaii Parks and Recreation owns the Nāʻālehu Cemetery. And so I believe there's a coordinated effort to address this urgent need. But that is also including State Historic Preservation, City and County of Honolulu's medical examiner, the Department of Health's EMS chief, the University of Hawaii's forensic anthropology team, and they've specifically requested the Office of Foreign Affairs because of our expertise in iwi kupuna and our statutory requirement that places the kuleana of our iwi kupuna in OHA's wheelhouse. So they are moving very quickly, and they realize that this is a major issue.
Okay, mahalo for now. Thank you.
Trustees, any other thoughts? Trustee Kino?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. And as others have expressed, I want to thank you for putting this on the agenda and calling us together. This is an important time for us to join together for the people for whom we care. Now, that's statewide, of course, and I know we have particular concerns for areas that have, where we've learned the need is very great now. My thinking is that we should definitely act, and as soon as we can, have our administration exercise all authorities that have been granted already. We have set ourselves up for that purpose so that we wouldn't, even if the board hadn't met today, we wouldn't be preventing our administration from acting in a proactive way. Part of that action, I believe, I would say secondly, we need to do is assess, as Trustee Lindsay has mentioned. We need to know with the best information what is needed and where it is needed. And that knowledge will unfold as the days go forward, as we discover that there may be areas of need that we're not aware of yet. And we discover, as you point out, the ultimate needs for power, for food, for emergency cash, and so forth, water, and this will help us in guiding. So first, let's act, or allow the administration to act. Secondly, assess. And third, I think we need to ensure accountability. I'm reading the latest report for our Kona Low recovery operations dated Friday, August the 7th. And this information is based upon what we know last week. As of August 5th, 394 applications have been received statewide, with 86 applications approved and $1,098,000 distributed to beneficiaries. A total of 156 applications remains in the review pipeline. Now, we had someone testify to us today and sent in her written testimony, that's Luann Mahiki Favorito, that her family applied, and that was in March of 2026, and has not received any assistance since then. I don't know how widespread that is, but if there are 156 applications that we know of that have not been met, that impact will be at two levels. One, it may impact the resources that are available to transfer, because we wouldn't want to transfer from the Kona low needs money that still needs to go to people who are awaiting it. But it also may have an impact in terms of giving us information as to efficiencies or that need to be improved in our distribution process. We want to do that before we embark on more distribution. We want to do that in the most efficient way, and so we want to make sure that there will be accountability. I would recommend that we affirm today the authorizations that exist that will allow our administration under Summer's leadership to go forward, give some advice with regard to that. Secondly, call for the administration to conduct the best assessment of needs, what is needed and where. And third, make sure that we evaluate the processes that have been used with EOLA in order to ensure the most efficiency and accountability as we quickly move forward to meet the needs of Lala.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Aquino. Trustee, you good? Trustee Alapa? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trustee Akako.
Mahalo. Mahalo everyone for coming together and the diligence that has been done thus far. Having talked to beneficiaries, having talked to Ohana throughout the island of Hawai'i and throughout the state, it is most concerning some of the news that we're seeing, some of the reports that we're hearing firsthand in what they're experiencing from loss of power, continued loss of power for now it's a number of days. The need for gasoline, the need for clean water, the need for power sources, the need for food, and those that do not have proper transportation as they did not have it prior to this storm, or they have lost their vehicle or vehicles on top of losing their homes or access to where they need to go. There's a lot to consider here, and I appreciate being presented various options and how we can best move forward so we can look at the assessment from a short-term and a long-term point of view. I'm thinking out loud how we collectively can look at how we can get resources out immediately within the next so many hours, within the next so many days, within this week, within the next so many weeks. What is our short-term and our long-term initiatives on this? I would like to see that on the board so that we can have these options presented to us so we can best move forward and look up how internally. I appreciate what Trustee Lindsay had mentioned in terms of having different tiers and looking at statewide assessment. And clearly, Hawai'i Island has really taken the brunt of the storm impact. And so that we can look at internally how we can do this, whether we're going to have short-term hires or those contracted in within OHA, as I would really like to see from this storm on and for emergencies such as this going forward, that we're able to have a department within OHA to handle matters such as this. So we're not always having to contract out, we're not always having to seek outside assistance, that we're able to handle this from within. Having read the correspondence from our beneficiaries and hearing the testimony today, mahalo to these beneficiaries for sharing their mana'o from a call line at OHA. Great suggestion. I think that we immediately need to have staff go to the islands that were most heavily impacted and assess as possible and look at what that would look like from a budgetary standpoint and from an ability of how we can, what we can do within the time frame and have some pretty reasonable timelines and budget amounts that we can work with. And I would appreciate being able to see that as early as during this meeting on the board, if that is at all possible. I know that certain renderings were put up, so I don't know if that could be put up side by side on the screen or there's certain figures that haven't been shared yet that we can have as far as further data that we can work with. I know what I know based on the press conferences that I have seen over the weekend from Hawaii County, from the governor's office. I too am incredibly saddened having gotten a call yesterday morning from my Ohana regarding the surfacing of those that are resting in Nāʻālehu Cemetery. And I do recall the Hawaii County Mayor mentioning that it is indeed under the provision of the Hawaii County, and this does fall under Parks and Recreation. And it was ensured by the mayor that they will handle this as it needs to, and I would imagine with the utmost dignity. And given that our mandate as OHA regarding iwi kupuna is clear, I would be interested in receiving constant updates on that as well, so that we can be proactive, as I know that it's very heavy on kaumaha on our community to not just hear but see the visual documentation of what is going out into the Nāʻālehu parking lots and parts of Nāʻālehu that really is quite devastating. So with that, if we can, any other information that you folks can put on the screen for our trustees in person, virtually, as well as our beneficiaries that are tuning in now and in the future, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you for that. Will do, and we actually do have some information that we can put up. Everett is working on a motion, if you will, that you could consider deciding on, that outlines the option 1 and option 2 framework.
Before you put that up,
okay.
To orient our trustees, this is the main highway that runs through Nāʻālehu town. And this is the Honolulu Big Shop. This is where Ace Hardware is, the modern church is here. And this is where the Nāʻālehu Cemetery is. I've seen a lot of videos about it.
I know this information, but given that you're sharing this, can you share with them where's Mauka and where's Makai, so they have an understanding?
Mauka would be above the cemetery, Makai would be below. And, you know.
We cannot hear Chair.
Can you? Yeah, so here's Hawaii Belt Road and the main road that goes right through the heart of Nāʻālehu town. You know, the Nāʻālehu Shopping Center would be kind of at this intersection of Kalahiki Road. On one corner is the Honolulu Bake Shop. The other corner is Nāʻālehu Ace Hardware. And just up the road on the right-hand side is the Mormon Church. This Kalahiki Road, which you would make a right-hand turn and go Mauka, about a quarter mile up the road on the left-hand side is where the Nāʻālehu Cemetery is. If you go to the next photo, Pam, or Lehua. This is a picture of the Ace Hardware. And you can see the Honolulu Bake Shop and the debris. And if you go to the next photo and you scroll in, you can see the entire road is full with debris. So that's just on the road. The cemetery would be up here. And there were reports that there were caskets down by Ace Hardware, a quarter mile down from the cemetery. So, to trust, you know, Trustee Akaka's point, it's a catastrophic
And in the
issue.
Honolulu Bake Shop parking area and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know the state of the Honolulu Bake Shop, but you can tell by the amount of trees and debris and rocks and earth that, you know, a significant amount of debris and water, you know, rushed right through the heart of Nāʻālehu town, in particular, this road. Vice Chair Souza?
Hey, Mr. Chair. Make sure that everyone understands this too. I mean, we're trying to act immediately. We heard, right? generators, water, fuel, that kind of stuff. And so I think there's, there's numbers that are put together today. And there's also $55 million, I'll tell you that right now, from the state, right? That's immediate assistance. And so there's options moving forward. We can also look at that as well. But I think it's also important to know that as we distribute the funds, that's how we will continue to assess as well, right? When boots on the ground, if we sit here and say we want to set up a team, that's a long-term fix for our organization in assessing needs in the future. But currently, I believe there's numbers before us, and I want to act quickly for our people. And as we go along, we may have to, reallocate those funds elsewhere. We don't know what's going to happen this next couple of weeks, and so I think the immediate need right now is what we got to kind of go back and start addressing again, Mr. Chair. Mahalo.
Mahalo. As health and safety is the short and long-term goal that we're looking at, also hearing the 55 million, as opportune as that would seem, how it passed in conference was clearly written that this is specifically to address the federal cuts, funding that goes to Native Hawaiian programs from the federal government, and regarding health education and so forth, and not with development and building, and those were the specific wordings during the conference and how that came to pass. Now, what was discussed and what we are aware of in the last couple weeks is that there is an amount that has been built up since it's been deposited, and maybe that is perhaps the funding that could be looked at in terms of the interest of what is being built day by day and weekly. However, that specific 55 million is not something that we could use for this. However, I would be interested in seeing what funds we have available to specifically address this disaster. Mahalo.
Sure.
Yep. We'll go Trustee Galataire, then Susan Ahuna.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Trustee Akaka mentioned, the 55 million has already accrued 60,000, I believe, something like that.
That is correct.
65,000.
65,000 over 4 weeks. So I don't think there's any provision in SB 903 that addresses the interest.
That is correct.
So that would be available if we so choose. Okay, thank you.
Let me just do Vice Chair Souza and then Trustee Ahuna.
Yeah, and then Mr. Chair, in addition to $55 million, when you put provisions in it like that, and I'm going to just be clear on this, it's open to interpretation, and that's why we have an ad hoc committee to address how to move forward and make the recommendations to the board. And I just want to be very clear. Maybe Trustee Akaka's understanding of what it was is one thing, and when it comes before the board, I look forward to having more information as to how we can immediately assist our people. Mahalo.
Okay, Trustee Ahuna.
Yeah, Chair. No, I just was, again, is it possible to get those motions on the board just so we can speak to what we're going to be voting on?
Yeah, we'll do.
And then
So-
if Pony has a presentation, I didn't see it yet, or maybe she can address some of the questions that everyone's having, but I mean, I don't know what the motion is, that's why. So it's hard. I'm listening to all kinds of things all around me, and I just want to make sure we're speaking to whatever this motion is going to be about.
No, totally understand your frustration, Trustee Ahuna. I promise we're going to have something up that we can entertain. Summer, did you have anything else to add to the previous point? Is it Everett? Okay, Everett Ota was General Counsel.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Trustees. As noted, the 55 million made available through Act 32 is the subject of the ad hoc committee's pending work, as stood up last week at our Board of Trustees meeting. The provisions in the Act, though, are general in nature, and they provide for use on Native Hawaiian programs and services with critical short-term funding needs in the areas of education, health, economic development, and community-based initiatives with use on residential and mixed-use development and related infrastructure expressly excluded or prohibited for that use. It doesn't specify that the needs need to be attributed to the federal funding reductions, just that it is targeted to one of those areas, the 4 areas that I identified. And it doesn't speak to the specific allocations that need to be made across those particular areas.
Okay, thank you.
To quickly
Chair?
respond.
Sure. Hey, Chair Merida, go ahead.
You know, I was just thinking of all this talk of transferring money from here to there. I'm okay with keeping the Konalo monies where they are and initiating new monies for this devastation so that it can be kept in order as we expend. I think that would make it cleaner. Because, you know, the checks have not all gone out for Konalo. That's what concerns me. So if we keep that money, it's easier to account for it. And then we just create a new budget like we did the fire in Maui. It had its own budget. Konalo can have its own budget. And now the devastation from this storm can have its own budget.
Okay, I just have a question though. We're not talking about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you please clarify?
Yes.
If I could maybe, Chair Kahele. Thank you to the trustees who've expressed concerns about the ongoing needs and funding that was allocated to the Kona Low relief effort that this board approved back in March. But to clarify, the funding that has been identified and discussed today for redeployment for immediate assistance in response to the Hurricane Lala weather events, that is not coming from the Kona Low funding. The Kona Low funding was, as approved by this board, a redeployment of approximately $3 million split between 2.9 million to go toward direct assistance to beneficiaries and 100,000 to go to support community hubs responding to the Kona Low events. That $3 million was taken and redeployed from the original approval of this board back in November of 2025, where the board approved $6.1 million for the federal furlough response and the SNAP recipients, the furloughed worker assistance. But there was funds remaining from that November effort, and 3 million of that was carved out and redeployed toward Kona Low events. But in kind of working through the closeout of the first program and redeploying those funds to the Kona Low assistance, there is this remaining balance of approximately 184,000 that was remaining and unallocated from those monies originally encumbered back in November. And those funds have been subsequently returned to OHA from Hawaiian Council, which implemented that November funding effort. So that money, as well as the gift cards at an approximate value of $151,000, is what is currently before the board as options for immediate deployment. They are not spoken for other than they were previously to be put towards those federal furlough efforts, but we now have them as available. So they're not otherwise taking away anything from our Kona Low relief. And in fact, we have a contract amendment to utilize those funds to continue the back applications that are just awaiting funding. But that is also covered by this contract amendment, and we're going through a process with Hawaiian Council to prudently disperse those funds as they demonstrate the drawdown and payment of those funds to beneficiaries in the Kona low relief. But again, not to overly complicate this, but those are different from the funds that we have now presented to the board this morning for consideration.
And I will add that to make that more explicitly and abundantly clear, Fiscal has requested that in whatever actions we take today, that we make explicit that we are using carryover funds from FY26. From FY25 that were never used in order to make available into this particular Lala weather event to redeployment, if you will. So we can clean up our books if we make explicit and include in whatever action you take today that those remaining funds, again, the aggregate of that amount is $335,000 will be carried over and redeployed for this Lala weather event purpose. I wanted to say that the tiered damage assessment kind of effort that Trustee Hulu raised initially in our discussion today is exactly the kind of more planful, thoughtful framing that we can apply towards the direct disaster in aid relief that we have aggregated at $490,407, which we envision being part of that phase 2 phase for addressing Lala weather event relief. The immediate relief and stabilization phase would be the use of these funds, the federal shutdown funds that would be sitting and idle, if you will, but for our directing them to this very urgent, this very pressing, and this very unique to the Kaʻū region need. We can be more planful. We can think of other ways to deploy the remaining funds, in particular these direct disaster aid grants, with a little more time and a little more effort. I will also say, to the point of our caller, our beneficiary who requested a helpline, early this morning, and this was planning from yesterday, our BSAs were equipped with scripts, telephone scripts, in order to provide, real-time, thoughtful resource messaging to any beneficiary who calls the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And Bill Brennan and his team over the weekend also used all of our social media platforms to outline all of the resources available during disasters and with which OHA is familiar and has partnered with our most recent and sort of historically done. So that helpline effort is underway. Of course, we can always improve, and should you approve today's action item, this particular program will also be among the list of resources available to our beneficiaries. I'm also pleased to say that our Hawaii Island staff on island in Hawaii are already committed to being our on-the-ground foot soldiers in this disaster effort. So we don't need to add temporary hires or anything of that nature for this purpose. Those PAIA directors have committed their staff to be responsive to the moment, and they are our best on the ground community ambassadors and representatives. They have steep relationships with the community. They have networks that they're already availing themselves of, so that we can take advantage and leverage connections to community in order to deploy what we hope will be your approval today, funds and services and resources. So that too, fortuitously, is already underway. And yes, if there is a broader desire, a broader effort to make more statewide outreach available, then we can always look to the 55 million, which is also in our possession, and any interest thereof, to address more expanded needs as good data comes to being.
Thanks, Summer.
Chair?
Hold on one second. I have a question, Chair Merida. The 30K for the Ina'i Kokua gift card program. Can you explain that again?
Yes, so $30,000 remains. It's, I got a text from Lisa while I was sitting here, and I don't have my phone with me now, but 30,000 is the remaining balance held with Home Depot, sort of committed to gift card usage, but not allocated because we have exhausted the list of applicants who are eligible and are poised to deploy and exhaust whatever funds we have for that list of eligible applicants. And this is the remainder. There was some thought to be using that remainder to help with shipping costs associated with Molokaʻi beneficiaries in particular who received gift cards and may need a plus up in order to get their goods delivered to their island. But again, the totality of that fund is not likely to be exhausted by those Molokaʻi recipients. And so any remainder thereof would be appropriately pivoted to another disaster relief effort that, but for us repivoting those funds, would sit idle in the same way that the federal shutdown fund sat idle if we don't do something affirmative with that balance.
But that's with Home Depot.
That is with Home Depot.
So the 30K is with Home Depot? It's like a credit we have with Home Depot?
Correct, according to the information that I got from Lisa.
Okay.
Yes,
All right, Chair Merida?
this morning.
Yes, I just want to ask that I'm in approval of all that Summer is suggesting in the action item. However, I'd like to include like the extreme beneficiaries away from Nāʻālehu to be considered as, I mean, who knows whether a house floated down in Waiʻōhinu, Maui, and they need help too. But that's exceptional. Nāʻālehu is exceptional. So we concentrate on Nāʻālehu, but we have to open it up to all of our beneficiaries who have suffered, let's say, the tier 3 damage to their homes, and they are displaced. It would not be fair on our part if we don't help those people. So I want to be sure that our action item includes them only in the high tier, in other words. You know, small kind of damage, maybe not, but the big damage where they're displaced, we need to consider them as well.
Okay, yeah, no, I totally understand, Chair Merida, what you're talking about, and I completely agree. I think I have a plan, but I just want to verify with Board Counsel Kapono. Just give this to Kapono. In terms of the emergency meeting and the agendized item that we have in front of us and the constraints under which the board can act today, under this agenda item.
Yes, this agenda item is just for the specific areas identified in the notice.
Right.
So I think what you want to do is instruct, which what I'm hearing is instruct admin to come up with something to include the entirety of the state, but I don't believe you can vote on that presently.
Right. Okay, yeah. We couldn't approve anything in Hilo or Puna or Kohala right now. This is Kaʻū, right, where at least from the reports we've gotten, the most widespread danger, imminent life type of natural disaster occurs. And I don't disagree that we should expand our efforts, given the resources we have, to other areas of the state that are in desperate need as well. And I would charge the administration to assess that and come up with that, and we can agendize that in another meeting or of the board, whether we convene in an emergency meeting in the next coming days, or We have another board meeting coming up in 10 days on the 27th. Now that may not, that may be too far away. So, you know, you have my commitment that we can pull the board together as soon as possible, in person, virtually, whatever is required. Today is this board acting for Kaʻū and to provide an initial tranche of assets for Kaʻū. And looking at what's available, one of the suggestions I would have, and just to ensure for the record, right, nothing in here, the 184,511.43, which are unused funds from Iola, the 151,79,857, which is the totality of the Times, Foodland, and KTA gift cards, and the 30K Home Depot Ina'i Kokua gift card program, nothing takes away from the already board-approved Kona Low program and the several hundred or so applications that are still pending that Trustee Akina referenced, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so what my suggestion would be is we appropriate the 184,511.53, the full unused funds towards Kaʻū, the Foodland and KTA gift cards, which can be used on Hawaii Island. We remove the Times gift cards, which are $350 gift cards. We have 108 of those, which total $37,800. Those could be used on Maui, Oahu, or Kauai, where Times has a presence. They have no presence on Hawaii Island. And then we also allocate the 30K Home Depot to that. I wouldn't touch the disaster aid today, the 460, 407. I would save that for potentially statewide efforts we would need, or reallocate some to Kaʻū. So my just, you know, without placing a motion on the table, I think at the very least we could do that. It would be $184,511.43 in unused funds. It would be $113,998.57 in unused gift cards at Foodland and KTA. Those would be 244 gift cards that are $350 in value, and 218 KTA gift cards that are $175 in value. And then finally, the $30,000 balance of the Ina'i Kokua gift card program, which is a credit we have at Home Depot. We have Home Depot in Hilo and also in Kona, but we could use that to potentially purchase generators or whatever critical items are needed. So the total amount of the board-approved appropriation for Kaʻū would be, and somebody could total the numbers for me, but I believe it's about $328,000-ish. So it would be 184,511.43, 113,998.57, which is basically the 151,798.57 minus the Times gift cards, which are 108 times 350, and it would include the $30,000 Home Depot program.
So I think that one math is different from mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that math is different from mine. So we want to, hold on. 161.
Is the unused funds from Iola 184,511.43?
Yes,
Okay, so that number.
that number's correct.
The gift cards are 151,798.57? All three gift cards combined?
Correct. And
Okay, so subtract the Times gift cards. So $350 times 108.
So I apologize. What you are seeing, you're looking at the 151 is the discounted gift card value. What is actually the face value of those cards is 161,350. And so what we ideally want to do is subtract the 37,800 total times.
From the 161,350.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's where we're off a little bit.
Hold on, Chair Emerita. We'll go right to you in a second. Let's just get this math straight. So that would be 123,550
Correct.
plus 30,000.
Plus 30,000, correct. That's your proposal, yes.
It's just, I'm just talking, right?
Yes.
Is 184, 511, 43 in unused funds, 123, 550 in gift cards for KT and Foodland, and the Foodland gift cards can be used at the Sack and Saves on Hawaii Island, and then the $30,000 Home Depot balance.
Yes, that's $338,061.43. That's my math. Grace, you check me on that.
Yeah, so that's what this board could approve for Kaʻū. We would retain the Times gift cards that could be used on Oahu, Maui, or Kauai. And I would encourage our, at-large or our island representative trustees that have relationships and boots on the ground that potentially could utilize those Time gift cards to work with administration. And it would preserve the entire 460-407 of the FY27 disaster aid for a further assessment by our administration and the other government agencies, and come back to this board, either in an emergency meeting, if that's what's required. If, to Chair Merida's point, someone's in a tier 3 disaster and their home is literally unlivable on Molokai or Maui or on any of the other islands, to include Hawaii Island, outside of the Kaʻū district, and they need immediate support, we can convene the board in an emergency meeting. I believe the statute component allows us to convene, given the severity of the disaster, or we can take it up at the August 27th board meeting, where administration 10 days from now will have a much more robust, fuller picture of Hurricane Lala's, impact on the state. That's just my suggestion. Trustee Akaka.
Hello. Could we have those figures up on the screen so we can have that visual on there?
Yep.
And also, as this discussion continued, I also want to share that I also received word that, and this is further speaking to health, education, and economic resiliency. And as many of us know, the school year has begun and is continuing to begin through the end of August and so forth. And I just received word that in Kaʻū, Nāʻālehu Makani, the first Hawaiian language immersion school in Kaʻū, was devastated by the flooding as well. So their starting of their school year is inevitably at a pause from what I'm seeing here. And so as many organizations are starting GoFundMes and fundraising efforts and spreading the word, this is something that I'm now seeing brought to my attention, and walls being flooded out and moved, and what that means for the communities in terms of getting to school, having a school, what that looks like in them continuing their jobs while their children are in a learning environment. I think these are all critical things that we need to look at. And if we are going to be looking at the funding that we received at the state legislature with the carry forward account, and specifically when it comes to the emergency and critical needs, again, health and education and economic resiliency falls under that. Of course, we have to keep in mind that specific provision of not including new development and construction. However, I'm open to exploring what this looks like in this specific area and beyond. And so if we can have in bullet point format or visuals on the screen in terms of what our options are today or in the next so many days, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we'll do, Trustee Akaka. And to your point, not only are schools closed statewide at the governor's order yesterday, and will be, I believe, reassessed by 5 p.m. today, whether or not schools stay closed statewide again tomorrow. But there's no doubt that public schools and charter schools in the Kaʻū region, Pāhala Elementary, middle school and high school, Nāʻālehu Elementary, and others are going to be affected for the long term. So I think, to the point of the trustees and to Everett's clarification, should this board want to use any part of the financial resources allocated under SB 903 because of the latitude that the legislature gave this board to use that funding for critical short-term needs that address education, healthcare, housing, and community-based initiatives and economic development, that we could potentially do that. I would say we got to work together with the ad hoc committee, since we've already given that kuleana to Chair Galutaria and Vice Chair Souza and the other, Vice Chair Waiʻōhinu and the other administrative staff. But I think that's a good start for this board today. And we know that there are community groups, some that I know of. I mean, longtime community group is O Kaʻū Kako, that's Uncle Wayne Kawachi, of course, Hana Laulima, Dane and Terry Shibuya, Eeve Hanau o Ka'aina, that's Jody Rosam. There's Vibrant Hawaiʻi that does a lot of critical work on Hawaii Island as well. Catholic Charities. And so there are community hubs that I'm confident are going to start standing up that we can be able to support. And with that, Summer, the community hub funding that we allocated during the Kona Low, we didn't only restrict to Native Hawaiian specifically, but community hubs that support Native Hawaiian communities, right?
Correct.
So speak to that. Like, let's say there's a community hub that we want to appropriate $25,000 to because they are doing fuel for generators.
Yeah. I think we wanted to give community hubs that we could vouch for, and that when I say we could vouch for, that have a record of, successful deployment, that have history with the communities that they're serving, but who are more disproportionately than not serving Native Hawaiians, because that demographic in that community of service is largely represented by our beneficiaries. We wanted to give them the maximum flexibility and access to resources that allow them to be responsive without being onerous upon people coming to them. And if you are visiting a community resource hub, you are in dire straits. That is not the first place of resource that you go to unless it's your last place of resort. And so going through a HRP verification process, or having people have to get their birth records and show it before getting a gift card, not the kind of engagement we want to be having. I would also say, insisting that OHA branding be on every single transaction, also not the most sensitive at that time in that space, to be empowering our community hubs who have pilina to the places that they're serving, the kind of autonomy that and dignity that they deserve for stepping into this moment and being of service. So for those particular awards, we give some latitude, but that latitude is safeguarded, if you will, because their reputation, their record of service, and their place in that community is as trusted, servant. So that would be the same kind of standard we'd apply for the awarding of community resource hubs to the Lala weather event.
Sorry, I want to make sure I hear this correct. So you're saying that it should be at the forefront in terms of OHA, it being shared that this funding is coming from OHA?
This funding would be a direct grant from OHA to these community resource hubs. That particular engagement, we can, uplift and be a part of, participate in, but from the point at which those hubs receive those funds in order to execute and discharge the service that they're doing in community, we want to give them maximum flexibility, maximum autonomy to go ahead and get those needs met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it speaks to as well what you had mentioned earlier in this meeting, that oftentimes the question is, what is OHA doing and how is OHA positively affecting me, so that they know that this is truly coming from OHA, and that OHA has the health and safety at the forefront of our actions and what we're trying to do for the community, so that they can rest assured that they are top of mind at this time. Mahalo.
Agree.
Trustee Kim, your thoughts?
I'm very glad that we can act quickly. I think that the administration has authorization and we can give guidance today. Looking forward to our further solutions.
Okay.
And I'm also glad to hear that we will not be diverting funding from the Kona Low funding. I think that my concern is that we be sure that we learn areas in which we could have better efficiency and accountability so that we can make sure that our beneficiaries receive the promised funds in a very immediate way.
Understood. And, you know, I will say that the staff is so good. We integrate those efficiencies as we are administering the program to the extent practicable. And I've seen that firsthand, and I'm really grateful for how responsive our teams are when we receive feedback from beneficiaries, either in queues or who have yet to be vetted in terms of applications from trustees who flag certain applicants who, for whatever reason, had an initial encounter that was less successful. Their responsiveness makes me proud as an administrator. So thank you. We heed that advice.
Thank you also, Summer, for your sensitivity to our sharing of our brand, which is, as Trustee Akaka points out, important and valuable, and yet at the same time something about which we want to be sensitive at this time, in which we show our heart and our compassion rather than trying to advertise. That's good, and that's all part of our accountability for the message that we send, and so I thank you for that.
Mahalo.
Also want to note Trustee Wahe, I believe, has joined us. He's dialed in via phone, and he's joined at 11:06. Is that correct, Lihua? Yeah. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Trustee Kaka, and then I believe Keishan, our COO, has his hand up, so I want to go to his question.
Mahalo. I would like to know what the recommendation is when we do receive from beneficiaries or those that are caring for or wanting to help or ensure that our beneficiaries who are in dire need get assistance. What, as a trustee or for our staff, how should we best handle that?
So you can route any of those concerns that come directly to your trustee office to myself and the director of whatever program it is. If that particular beneficiary has identified the program, generally if you, two-line, if you will, if it's through an email, the director of the program and CC myself for awareness, for accountability, for circle back to make sure that that particular request was resolved is always good measure and welcome.
Is it possible to get, as time goes by, a weekly update or after so many days update?
On that particular.
Yes, so that because maybe we're getting, various offices are getting multiple touches on the same subject matter, the same families or the same community or business. So we know that that is getting
actually
attention.
resolved. No, absolutely. And I'm offering that if you'd like for your trustee aide or your trustee secretary to be continually CC'd on any communications between the program and the beneficiary until that particular matter is resolved, we can do that as well. Sometimes trustees, you have inboxes that are, filled, and so we move you to a BCC line or something else. But if a trustee wants to stay engaged, you and your aides and or secretaries can absolutely continue to be included in any future correspondence until resolution.
Mahalo. And in terms of our communications online for the Office of Foreign Affairs, do we have a specific part on our website dedicated to, or on our social media dedicated to awareness of this situation?
At this time, no, but we will quickly stand up a communication, particularly if this board takes action on the underlying resource. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Keishan.
Yep. Aloha mai kako. Mahalo nui. For the discussion, I just wanted to touch in and talk a little bit about the status of Iola, given Trustee Akina's question. So yes, there are about 160 individuals in that waiting pipeline. And I just wanted to speak to the fact that, there's a lot of information that comes to fruition as these emergencies arise. So with the first appropriated amount of money for Iola number 2 to address beneficiaries that had been affected by the Kona low, we appropriated approximately $1.1 million in that contract. And that was based off of the damage assessments that we had at the time from the state and the county. And this second amendment actually addresses the fact that many of those damage reports were underreported. So it's something that kind of evolves through emergency funding such as this, but it does take a little bit longer. And that was the prudent decision at the time for OHA to, keep that additional funding and not transfer it to Hawaiian Council based upon the amount of damage that was reported. So mahalo nui.
Thanks, Keishan. So, Summer, if the board takes action and the first step is the reallocation and authorization of these funds from these three different buckets, how do you envision we can actually translate that into action on the ground? Are you thinking this is our Hawaii Island BSAs, our top point person there at our Hawaii Island office? How are you thinking we're going to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a combination of that. We already have some nonprofit organizations identified. And when I say nonprofit, that might not be the appropriate word. Nonprofit / community resource hubs identified. So we can quickly ascertain what an appropriate amount of funding would be to equip those particular entities with sufficient supplies, right? We also, our Hawaii Island, particularly our land division and our BSAs are already out, like helping with supply runs. Lori couldn't be here today because she was on her way after delivering what she had about the due diligence for this action item into the spaces that were impacted. So relying on our team on the ground to inform our data making process. But I will also say that it's really important, and I feel really grateful. You've connected us to Mayor Alameda's office.
Yep.
We are in touch with the state and the executive agencies, in particular DHS. And so that kind of information will also inform. I know in the Kona Low events, Mayor Blangiardi's office was really integral in helping OHA identify some of the community resource hubs as well that were in positioned and poised to do this ably. And so we'll rely on all of those networks. But I do think one of the first tranches of funding that we'll get out will be to supply those community resource hubs with adequate funding to stand themselves up. And then thereafter determine how to distribute the gift cards.
I was able to connect with Senator Kanuha, who is this area state senator for the district. Was not able to connect with Representative Capella, who's the House rep, but I did and attempted to reach out to Councilwoman Galimba, who's the council member for the Kaʻū district. She lives right in the heart of Kaʻū and was not able to reach her. I would suspect, I believe Rep. Capella lives in the South Kona area. So again, just cell service and cell tower connectivity issues could contribute to that. But I think our local elected officials, right, they are also powerful allies on the ground because they know their communities, their streets, their neighborhoods, in some cases, better than anyone else does. And so I think if we were sitting here 3 days from now, it's going to be dramatically different because of the information we'll have. And so this tranche of first relief funding we're providing at least positions OHA and the administration with the delegation from the board to act as you see fit based on what emerges in terms of the need and hubs and support. So
Sure.
yeah.
In addition to that, we're going to be launching what we're referring to as the Malu project, which is going to be the monies that was in the overage. So as we lift it up, as we lift up the ad hoc, we'll be sure to weave in where we need to weave in this particular issue.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. Let's pull the motion then up on the board. Trustee Ahuna, I know you've been waiting. You've been waiting for a motion. We're gonna give you a motion right now. Can someone also share that with me through email? Who has the draft of the motion or? I mean, okay, I mean, can we use exact amounts for the carryover? Okay, so let's for number one, let's change that number to authorize the immediate redeployment and carryover of 184,511.43. $511.43. Take out the word approximately. Okay, and remaining on. Okay, can you scroll down? Okay, number 4. Yeah.
Chair, I noticed it says approximately 30,000.
Yep.
Is it exactly 30,000 or
Yeah,
approximately?
is that an exact number? The Eola, the Home Depot one?
That is as exact as we have.
Okay, so just take out the word approximate. I'm sorry, what? 30,407. Okay, 30,407. Thank you, Trustee Alapa. The currently, the gift card for the Unai currently, Unai gift card program. Currently, yep. Just take out the word currently and just replace it with of. Purchase the Unai Kukui gift card program. Okay, yeah, 30,407. Gift card program. No need the word then. We can just take it out. The word of. Yeah. Program. And then can you? Pam, under the 3407, can you put a decimal point and 2 zeros? Okay, can you scroll down to the bullets? space. Yep. Okay. All right. Go back up. Up all the way to the top. For number 2, can you add in the total of that value? Okay. So,
Maybe you can bold the number figure amount so that it's very clear to see what we're working with.
yeah. Go up to number 1. Bold this. Go to number 2. After this, make a column. Put up parentheses. Capital T, the word total. Total. 123, 550, decimal 00. Parentheses and bold that. And also bold 244 Fruland at 350 and 218 KTA at 175. Put decimals, zeros after the 175 and 350. How's that? Go to the top. Do we want to your point where we had Eola, there was a name for this, just so that the accountability of it is like attached to a certain program, whether it's a Kaʻū Kako fund or something,
I'm looking over at or Lāma, but I will defer to more astute.
Something along the lines of Malama
Lāma Kukui.
Malama Moku o Kiawe Ma. I mean, when you add Ma, it's beyond just Moku o Kiawe. It's yeah.
For Kaʻū?
Can I get back to you in 30 seconds?
Oh, yeah. Looking, okay.
I wasn't on the agenda, but
Time has begun.
contribute.
Hey, trustees, we're just finalizing the action item and attaching a Inoa to it so that for, sit rep and accountability purposes, we have something to refer to. I think it should at least be something specific to Kaʻū, right? Or no, it should be broader, but I mean, I do believe that we will support other communities outside of Kaʻū and other islands that have been affected. I think there's no doubt that Hurricane Lala has affected our beneficiaries across the state. So likely there'll be another board action that encompasses that, but this here is specific to the Kaʻū region. And I think it's important that the board able to attach an inoa to it. Lāma was sitting behind me. I don't know where he went.
Chair, I recommend we just keep it simple.
Okay.
Like Kokua Kaʻū, and that way it can also be replicated in other.
Okay. So like OHA's Kokua Kaʻū Fund?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right.
I
What do you
think
think?
I think that's a great suggestion. At the same time, we're not limiting ourselves just to the Kaʻū district, right?
Well, this is
So this
Yeah.
is specifically just
specifically
Kaʻū.
for Kaʻū.
And then in time, within the next week or so, we're gonna malama,
Yeah.
like Moko Keawe as a whole and or through the state, and then have different names for different sets of kokua.
I don't know what we'll do after this, but like this amount of funding is specific to the Kaʻū region, at least for now.
And then the remainder, the Times gift cards and the direct disaster aid grant program, those funds and any other funds that would be potentially allocated through the 55 million can go to a broader effort. And the administration, if you task us to do that, to prepare something more planful for the broader effort, we can do so in the next week or upcoming weeks with good information.
Okay. Yeah, let's scroll down towards the bottom. And what is the rest of this? What is below the bullets? Is this all part of the action item, Everett?
Yes, Chair. So these are to ensure we have the appropriate authorizations for administration because in deploying this, we may be issuing what amount to direct grants to either beneficiaries or community and organizations to deploy this funding. These types of disbursements in the form of grants under OHA's statutory powers would otherwise come before the board for approval, similar right to the Hoʻokoʻa or the community grants or the CIP grants. But we want to ensure that we are properly capturing the authorization to make these grants for administration, deploying these funds expeditiously with proper authorization, but subject to the guardrails that are also described in this action.
Okay.
So I apologize for its length, but it is just to ensure that we have all of those appropriate authorizations reflected here because it is something that the board will be delegating.
So, okay, let's just add in like one sentence at the end that includes the program name. What was it, Koike? Okay, so this effort, this X, will be known as the OHA's Kokua Kaʻū Fund?
Yeah.
Fund. I think she's typing it up, yeah. Item E. Yeah, so just make E. Yep. This somewhere this effort, this this disaster relief initiative will be known as the OHA Kaʻū Fund. Project? Nah, not project. No. Come on, what does the gallery say? Nathan? Yeah, okay. Known as the fund? Okay, fund. Okay, great. This disaster relief initiative will be known as the OHA Kaʻū Fund. And I do suspect that there'll be additional resources if needed. Kaʻū would have a kahako. I don't know if that's possible with the Okina. Right? Yeah. Kaʻū. Yeah.
Given that the emergencies are not limited to Kaʻū, however, what we know of the devastation to Kaʻū, what information we have, what would be our response to, let's say, those on the Hilo side or other parts of the island that have such devastating effects to their home, and see just the name Kaʻū in there? How would we handle that?
So right now, our BSA scripts are identifying other resources readily available immediately. And then again, if one of the actions out of today's meeting is the directive from this board for administration to come back and provide a more comprehensive statewide plan for the remainder use of the funds, then we will have a more exact and definitive statement for all of the other areas within the week. You know, if we get this on the August 27th agenda, which we could, I leave that to the board. But in the interim, all of the resources available, which include statewide resources in our script and on our website, thanks to our comms team, remain resources that other areas of the state can avail themselves.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Trustee Kina.
Mr. Chair, I am very much supportive of this action and our making available funding for Kaʻū District. That's an imperative. But I want us to be mindful of the optics. We don't want to raise criticism that says we have favored one area and ignored others. There are people who are suffering elsewhere on the Big Island, as well as on the other islands, Maui, Molokai, and so forth, Kauai. I just wouldn't want OHA to be criticized for not caring for others or for in any way showing favoritism. So maybe we should have a general name for the relief effort consistent with what we've already articulated, which is we have a heart for all Native Hawaiians throughout the Hawaiian Islands. And this is the first action in that general program that's here for all Hawaii. This title for Kaʻū could still apply to this action, but it's part of our intention as a board to be there for all Hawaiians.
Make the recommendation.
I'll rely upon the input of others who may be better at Native Hawaiian. No, a more general title that would refer to our plan to help anyone everywhere, not just Kaʻū.
Mr. Chair.
Hey, Vice Chair Souza.
Hey, Malo. I understand what Trustee Akina is saying, but again, going back to the current action item, and specifically for Kaʻū District, right, these funds are being allocated. I think maybe in the messaging with Bill going out after this, after we approve this action item, then the messaging will say, right, in the coming days, we'll continue with the board has directed administrative staff to assess the needs in other areas across the Pāhala. I mean, just to be clear, I mean, because I think these funds, again, these funds are specifically for Kaʻū district. And we don't want other guys also reaching out and saying, hey, okay, we heard this program is established, I'm applying, I'm from Maui now, right? And so we just want to be clear.
Yeah. Any, from our legal counsel's perspective, the agendized item, the resources specifically directed toward this geographical area is identifying it by a specific name in a more specific sense or a general sense, something to consider. To Vice Chair Souza's point, I see both sides for sure and trying to figure out how to thread the needle.
There is no issue legally with what you guys are, with either side. So it is purely a, what is our messaging? What is our branding? I see no problem with whatever one you guys go with.
Okay.
Chair.
Hey, Chair Merida.
I think if there could be some messaging that the next 10 days under assessment of the entire state of Hawaii, we could consider more kukua to our beneficiaries all over, and they should let us know. I think that we should call them into sending us emails and letting us know if there's any critical problems in their areas. You know, like the two beneficiaries that came forward in the beginning of our meeting. If there is something in Molokai or something that Leimomi knows that we don't know, they should share it with us, and we can send our assessors out to check those areas, just to give us some reason to see that there is a problem. We cannot be all over the state. So I do know that there could be spot problems, and we should reach out to those people, but we need their help as well, because we cannot be all over the place. So maybe in 10 days, when you agendize the next board meeting, we can take up whatever we find out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the FY27 disaster relief fund, right, could be used for a number of things, and I think it definitely would be and could be used for that.
Well, we could set an amount for the Lala, disaster. We got the fire disaster, we got the Konalo, well, we can have the Lala.
Okay, I'm kind of agnostic to a name. I just want to get it done. Huh? Huh? Trustee Aquino? We're still toying around with the name here.
We are?
Yeah, we are.
Well, how about just use a descriptive name rather than a fancy one? The Lala Disaster Relief Fund, first stage of which is the beautiful Kaʻū name.
Well, the action item is specific, right, to the regional districts, right? If you scroll up to the top, right, no matter what we call it, the funds can only be used for this specific area, right?
Well, I recommend we take a vote on this action item, Chair.
Second.
Do we have heartburn over it being geographically specific to Kaʻū?
Yes. I think that maybe perhaps I'm trying to look at the wording here. It's kind of challenging with the screen moving. However, I'm looking at the wording here and I see that down in that first paragraph says priority shall be given to the Kaʻū region, perhaps wording, and I'm open to how we can do this based on need, is instead of saying priority shall be given to something along the lines of efforts beginning with. Or if you want to preface it by saying, or somewhere down in that paragraph, or in this action item being based on data and information, funds I'm open to interpretation on how to go forward on this. However, we do know that Kaʻū is hard hit. However, we don't know just how bad the devastation is throughout, and we don't want to exclude those that are also in need and have a focus only on Kaʻū. So I think that Trustee Akina's recommendation of having a broad name could be helpful. However, saying that priority shall be given to, I think we can start with Kaʻū.
I mean, I don't know if I understand what you're saying. I mean, this is specifically for Kaʻū. We'll come back at another emergency meeting or another board meeting for outside of Kaʻū and other areas of the state. But this here, this is Kaʻū. This is this board stepping up for the most disaster-affected community in the state. And they need our help, and they are going to need our help now. And this $340,000 pales in comparison to the millions that we have appropriated for other communities. Mm-hmm. This is desperate. So let's not get into the weeds here on words. Let's settle on a name, and let's vote. Okay, perfect. Okay.
That makes sense. Can you say that in the microphone?
Can you scroll down, Pam?
So this disaster relief initiative will be known as the Lala Emergency, or you can say OHA's Lala Emergency Relief Fund, with program number 1 being Kokua Kaʻū.
Okay. OHA's Lala.
Thank you, Pony. Thank you.
Relief.
Thank you.
You want to add the word hurricane?
Well, so
It changed? That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. Yeah, with program 1 being Kokua, Kaʻū being the.
So do we then want to handle hurricane in earlier parts of this? Because earlier it just said Lala events.
That is true.
Yes.
Yep, that is true. Well, you have C, you have Lala. Go up, Pam. Oh, this is the added language. Yep. Go up some more to the bullets. Yeah, and so that bullet, you have hurricane there. Take that out there. Going up. Okay, keep going. No more hurricane in there, right? Okay, all right. Okay, so chair's gonna make a motion, and I'll read the motion into the record. The motion is the redeployment of existing EOLA emergency aid funding, authorize the immediate redeployment and carryover of $184,511.43 in remaining encumbered funds originally approved in the amount of $6.1 million by the Board of Trustees on November 6, 2025, as amended on January 14, 2026, for Hawaiian Council under contract number 4514. Priority shall be given to the Kaʻū region, including Pāhala, Nāʻālehu, Waiʻōhinu, and surrounding affected communities where the severity of flooding, loss of homes and personal property, disruption of transportation and utilities, isolation of communities, and other impacts have created immediate and continuing needs. Redeployment of unused EOLA emergency aid gift cards, authorize the use of remaining unused Foodland and KTA gift cards, 244 Foodland valued at $350 gift cards and 218 KTA gift cards valued at $175 each, total $123,550 to provide additional immediate and flexible essential needs support to Native Hawaiian households and, where appropriate, to Native Hawaiian serving community resource hubs and nonprofit organizations assisting affected households and communities of Hawaii Island impacted by the Lala weather events. Direct disaster aid grants to OHA beneficiaries, authorize the use of all remaining encumbered funds originally approved by the Board of Trustees for the Ina'i Kokua gift card program, $30,407 to provide direct disaster aid grants to verified Native Hawaiian individuals and households impacted by the Lala weather events. Operational flexibility, guardrails, and accountability. Authorize the OHA administrator in consultation with the appropriate OHA staff, including but not limited to OHA's General Counsel, Chief Financial Officer, and Community Engagement Director, and subject to applicable law and OHA policies to implement the disaster aid response in a manner that is responsive to changing conditions and emerging beneficiary needs, without requiring additional board action for each individual ward for operational adjustment, provided that assistance is limited to the funding amounts authorized by the board under this action and to purposes reasonably related to disaster relief and essential needs support resulting from the Lala weather events. Assistance is directed to verified Native Hawaiian beneficiaries and/or qualified Native Hawaiian serving community resource hubs and nonprofit organizations as applicable. Priority is given to beneficiaries and communities experiencing the most immediate and substantial impacts, with particular attention to the severe and continuing impacts in Kaʻū. OHA staff use reasonable procedures to verify beneficiary status, impact of Lala weather events, demonstrated disaster-related need, and receipt or intended use of assistance, recognizing that documentation requirements may need to be appropriately streamlined where disaster conditions have displaced records, disrupted communications, or otherwise made ordinary documentation impracticable. No applicant receives duplicate assistance from OHA for the same identified need to the extent reasonably ascertainable, while recognizing that OHA assistance may appropriately complement rather than replace county, state, federal insurance, charitable, or other disaster assistance. All awards remain subject to applicable requirements of HRS Chapter 10, including applicable grant conditions, monitoring, and record-keeping requirements, and the administrator shall provide the board with a timely accounting of awards, expenditures, remaining balances, geographic distribution, beneficiary reach, and significant implementation issues, together with recommendations for any additional board action that may become necessary as the disaster response and recovery effort progresses. Assistance shall prioritize beneficiaries experiencing immediate or continuing impacts from the disaster, including damage to or loss of homes or personal property, displacement, loss of income or essential resources, interruption of utilities, transportation, communications, or other essential services, and other circumstances materially affecting health, safety, welfare, or the ability to meet basic needs. To enable OHA to respond with appropriate speed as conditions and damage assessments continue to evolve, delegate to the OHA administrator the authority on behalf of the board and consistent with this authorization to determine whether an individual applicant is able to provide the services or activities proposed in the application consistent with HRS 1017C1D, determine applicant eligibility and the appropriate form and amount of assistance within the funding authorized by the board, award Lala disaster aid grants to eligible Native Hawaiian beneficiaries, and establish streamlined application, verification, award documentation, and disbursement procedures reasonably necessary to expedite assistance while maintaining appropriate fiscal eligibility and accountability controls. This disaster relief initiative will be known as OHA's Lala Emergency Relief Fund, with program number 1 being the Kokua Kaʻū Relief Fund. The longest motion ever read. So that's a motion on the table. Trustees, discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Kaga.
In a couple parts of this, I'm reading in a determine whether an individual applicant is able to provide the services or activities proposed in the application consistent with HRS 1017C1D. Is that another way of saying that that would have to go out for RFP? What does that conclude to?
Everett.
That's a requirement of HRS 1017 for us to award grants to individuals. That individuals are eligible recipients of OHA grant funds, but they have to meet that requirement. Services aren't, further defined in statute or anything in the alleged history. It's just really just a statutory requirement that we're just trying to meet. So it doesn't anticipate an RFP or anything. It's really just what we have to comply with in order to meet the grant statute language.
Chair, I have a question.
Chair Merida, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Everett, my understanding of an emergency fund like this, and when giving out monies, that these monies are not taxable by our beneficiaries. Is that correct?
That has been the case in prior efforts. We haven't done a similar analysis here, given the timing of this. But between the governor's emergency proclamation and what I expect to be federal assistance and federal proclamations of disaster, I would expect that similar findings would be met here. But I just don't have a final determination or an analysis ready at this time.
Okay, so can we look into that? Because I think that's a frequent asked question by our beneficiaries when receiving monies from us. Thank you.
Yes, we will do so. Thank you, Chair
Yeah,
Merida.
great question. And I also spoke with or communicated with Representative Tokuda yesterday, and she's working with the other members of the CODEL to get a presidential emergency declaration for this regional area, which I think is why FEMA is also involved with the governor and the mayor's teams today on the assessment, and that would definitely unlock, tax relief
Yes.
for recipients, just like it did for Lahaina. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good point. Okay.
One other thing, and maybe this doesn't have to be a part of the action item, but for consideration, as data is coming in and what is shared with our board, if there could, as appropriate, if there could be certain visual aids, imagery or video imagery that can be shared with us so that we have the depth of understanding of what is being considered here. Mahalo.
Yep. Anything else, trustees? All right, let's help Kaʻū. Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna,
Yes.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e, I'll come back to him. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
And Trustee Waihe'e. He's there. Hold on, let's see. Trustee Mahalo, thank you. You have nine yes vote. Motion passes.
Okay, mahalo nui loa, trustees. Great work. And thank you, Summer and the administration and the entire OHA team who worked through the weekend and are working today to make this happen for Kaʻū. Thank you so much for everyone's attendance.
I have one more request regarding this matter.
Yep.
If there could be a fact sheet or a set of information, a 1-pager, 2-pager, so that we may share with our beneficiaries as come in and more of a definition of what we just passed today.
Okay, will do. All right, we're on to the next item and last one on our agenda, community concerns and celebrations. Anyone signed up?
Yes, we have one person. We have Pikachu Billionaire.
Okay, Pikachu. Hi, Pikachu. If you're there, you are recognized. Okay, yeah, thank you. Also, before community concerns, the chair is going to defer on the agenda. It would be the executive session, item 2A. Executive session not needed. Pikachu? Okay, all right, we're moving on then. We're going to go to announcements at this time. The chair would like to make an announcement that tomorrow's military lease lands community presentation at Wahiwa, Lāʻālehu High School is canceled, obviously due to the effects of Hurricane Lala. Next week, Wednesday, the scheduled committee meetings for the OHA Standing Committee meetings are set for Wednesday, August 26th. The board meeting will be next week, Thursday, August 27th. And of course, that's in the event that we don't need to reconvene in an emergency session to address further Hawaii Island and statewide support because of Hurricane Lala. Also a reminder that next week, Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, will be the funeral for the late OHA administrator and OHA trustee, Kamaki Kanahele. That's going to start at 0900, 9 a.m. at St. Andrew's Cathedral. Okay, going back to Pikachu. Pikachu?
Chair,
Oh,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
an announcement.
Yeah, Chair Merida, go ahead with your announcement.
I'm sure most people know, but I want to thank all the people that that testified for the East Maui water decision that was made last week, Thursday. It's a really, really big win for Maui. As you all know, that all the islands have governed by their counties, their water system, and only Maui was not. And with all the testimonies that our beneficiaries, our government officials, and you, Chair, I like to think that I had a piece in there. I was so happy to see that now Maui County is going to be governing our East Maui water. And we have more work here on Maui in that we're going to have to work towards the West Maui water next. So thank you all for supporting that effort. And we really look forward to getting everything in government hands so that we can control the fairness of giving out our water. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us of that, Chair Merida. And also mahalo to Lena Alale, the advocacy team. She was there all day, gave great testimony. I know, Chair Merida, you were there in Maui. I saw you on video with Maui beneficiaries. You know, there's a lot of boards and commissions across the state, and you know, sometimes the decisions by the land board may not necessarily align with some of our positions, but they got it right on this one. So I want to mahalo the Board of Land and Natural Resources and Chair Ryan Kanakole for doing the right thing for East Maui and our water warriors there. So thanks, Chair Merida, for raising that point. Okay. Any other announcements? Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. I just wanted to extend a heartfelt mahalo to our beneficiaries, to our community, to our elected officials for coming together as community for community with these storms and disasters that come our way, and for staying strong in this and keeping our community informed as well as the Office of Hawaiian Affairs so we can continue in our mission and strategic plan when it comes to uplifting our Native Hawaiian people and in turn our Hawaii as a whole. Mahalo.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, we're going to let Pikachu have the last word if he's able to unmute himself. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Is he up? Pikachu.
Can you guys hear me? Can you see me?
Oh, we got you. We held out for you. You are recognized.
Thanks. Well, thank you, brother. Well, I was going to show you my video. So I'm still out of power since yesterday, 5 p.m. Why not? I'm glad you guys are talking out the story because we're still out of power. My grandma's plumeria tree that was she buried that 30 years ago. And my neighbor's one, they're down. So you only seen Facebook posts. That was like a couple days ago. Well, we had to chop it up. So look, I only had like a tiny Japanese backhoe, not a real backhoe, and I would chop it up. Luckily, our neighbors came together. He had a chainsaw, and they hatched it up. But I called 311. I called the main boss for City Refuge for the Green Buckets. I said, I got 2 plumeria trees over 30 feet tall. We can hack it up our stuff Hawaiian style. It's our own private property on DHHL land. But when I asked him for a solution, he's like, Pikachu, we're not going to have extra green buckets. I said, for the entire Honolulu City and County? I'm like, you have no idea how many trees are down. Waiʻōhinu parking lot, because you just don't got a footage of that stuff. I can tell you, we're even afraid to leave the house because the traffic lights are out. Still, no one has power from yesterday to this morning. So luckily, I have my cell phone to contact you guys. I can't email you normally. We have no spectrum, no Wi-Fi, no cable. I'm glad you guys are addressing the issues. I'm supporting you guys on Facebook, promoting you guys on live. So I hear everyone's concerns, and my heart's for all of you guys. Now, I'm not as bad shape as Maui, Big Island, Molokai. Hell yeah, we need to support our people. But if this agenda item is only for the people of that certain district, yes, please do that. But please also address, we're going to send support to all of you guys in due time, for X, Y, and Z. Because there's no one's going to give us extra green buckets in Honolulu to pick up, broken trees. And that's an issue. If you don't have chainsaws, what are we going to do? Pākea got a little flooded, but the power lines went down. You can see Samantha the court stuff. But if you don't got chainsaws and gas for their chainsaws, you're not going to get jack in a crack. We're okay with food, water, and propane from the west side. But I'm not sure about the other side. So I'm very concerned. I would show you my trees and the debris, and we did it Waiʻōhinu style. Chop it off, hand cut, and we asked our neighbors for 4 bins. Because we weren't going to wait for the city and county and mayor. And I did report this to 311. My problem when I reported this at 8:43 this morning on Monday, they have over 1,000 requests for the past 2 days. The city and county will not be addressed this issue. So I'm glad OHA can address this issue, but please, like you guys said, do the assessment, figure out where the best needs can be best met first. We're okay in Waiʻōhinu. I'm not asking for support from me, but I do want you guys to send support where it's best needed. And obviously you got boots on the ground, but comms are out, even in Waiʻōhinu. So I'm glad you guys waited for me. Mahalo nui loa, but we can't get out. And a lot of people are staying home still, and they don't know the communications. Most people are like listening to a radio. My family's listening to a radio right now. Everyone's waiting for a TV, but we have no comms, no power, no communications. And to me, it feels like a war zone when you look at destruction. So that's all I got to say. So I see you guys shaking your heads and nodding your heads, but I got to give you my assessment from Waiʻōhinu. I didn't know you guys had this emergency meeting until I checked the Facebook because I was out of internet. My comms was down too until like maybe 6, 7 this morning. And it's still out. No power, no street lights. And so let's figure out what we can do together for the best needs and all the islands. I'm not just saying Waiʻōhinu. No, Molokai needs help. Kauai got hits. Big Island got hits. So let's figure out how we can do this together and work with the mayors, because I don't want to see everyone milk OHA. The state, FEMA sucked. The last time FEMA called us, the Salcedos didn't get help. Shina de la Cruz roof, who went into, destruction and leak. It's still leaking because of the storms. And they never got help from FEMA. They got denied. So whatever OHA help can give, I encourage everyone to apply, but they can't even get online. They're not going to hear this message till later, maybe a couple days or 2. Because they're still out of power. They have no internet. Facebook and YouTube is working. So I'm on Zoom now because I know you guys. But a lot of people are probably listening now on YouTube or Zoom. You have about 82 people on YouTube and so much on Facebook Live. But with the power and comms out, as Chair Kelly knows, this is a war zone to me. Now we get to figure out the comms, get the power back up so we can communicate back with our people and reassess. You guys already know your community hubs. Each trustee knows each county better than me. I know Waiʻōhinu best, but you guys don't got to come here. Don't come here right now. Assess Big Island's bed, Maui, Molokai, and Kauai, and figure out how we can best send resources to them. Because Molokai is going to need like the big backhoes, not like a tiny, little hand-chopped plumeria tree. No, they need the big industrial equipment. They're going to need diesel. They're going to need fuel for their stuff. Because just like you guys said about the Nāʻālehu graveyard, same thing went down. You know, so please work it out together. Get back with the trustees, get back with your community leaders, as you guys know best as trustees, so we can figure it out together. And don't go too fast. I know you guys want to approve the funds, but let's assess it like you guys said, and then figure out where the best funds can go to. How you guys address the funds, I agree with you cleaning the money. Keep the kono low to the kono low, and the next one's the next. And you guys can figure out as you go. Definitely use the interest from the bank account from the 55 million. If you don't got to tap into it, don't tap into it yet. But if you can milk the interest monthly, use the interest. And that's all I got to say. But thank you
Okay.
for listening to my testimony. I appreciate y'all. And I know you guys are going to fill it out to help your, obviously, all the beneficiaries the best.
Thanks, Pikachu.
And that's what I got to say, Chair. Thank you very much. Even though you guys can't see me, I'm literally in front of the bushes and the broken trees, but I can't show you. But love you all. You guys take care, stay safe, and I'm still out of power. Aloha.
Well, thanks, Pikachu, and please take care of yourself and your ohana out there. And,
Oh, you know I'm a survivor. Any war, I will win, but I will survive. You know me, Air Force, baby. Chihu. Yeah, you. Aloha. Stay strong. Onipa.
Yeah, trustees, just looking at the Hawaiian Electric map for Oahu, there are thousands of residents that do not have power. The entire Maili's areas without power, Hauula, Ka'ava. So, you know, on behalf of the entire OHA Ohana, mahalo to Hawaiian Electric and those utility linesmen and grounds crew out there right now trying to get power on across the state. And they've been, I'm sure, working tirelessly over the last few days and are likely exhausted. So anything we can do to keep them in our thoughts and prayers and make sure that they're safe while they're going into some times very, very treacherous terrain to get to power lines is, you know,
If I may give
very dangerous work.
If I may give a figure to that, I saw while we were in this meeting, a news alert come through that statewide, those without power, 117,000 that they are aware of. Mahalo.
Okay. Any more community concerns, Lehua?
No one else has signed up.
Final pass on announcements. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, trustees. Let's get a roll call vote and we can adjourn.
Trustee Ahuna,
Yes.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e. Oh, he's off. And Chair Kahele.
Aye.
We have 8 yes votes. We are adjourned.